In the previous episode, Ye-in was threatened because of a wild boar. The person of her mind was Yun-woo. She don't know why Yun-woo is the one Ye-in thinks about. And when Yun-woo saved Ye-in, Eun-sang suddenly came. When Eun-sang asks about Ye-in's condition, then Yun-woo asks to take care of this because Ye-in needed rest. Ye-in thought she would die at that time, but he convinced herself that she would not. While walking, Ye-in suddenly sprained her foot and Yun-woo safely carried her. Is Yun-woo being dramatic again? Ye-in said it's because she was hurt, so this was reasonable. Yun-woo carried Ye-in to Ye-in's family resting place. Ye-in looked at Yun-woo in amazement. When Ye-in was with his family, they admired Yun-woo because he saved Ye-in and managed to shoot the wild boar. Moreover, his father, who was usually indifferent, now admired Yun-woo. Ye-in said that Yun-woo used to be a mariner in the Special Guard Force, so he was good at shooting. Her aunt said that Ye-in was a lucky woman because his muscular arms could make her heart floating.
고모! 야, 고모.
Yun-woo went to check the climbing route and saw that the fence was open. Yun-woo also saw that there was corn or animal food scattered on the ground. At dinner, Yun-woo explained what he saw earlier. He was sure that the wild boar had passed through the fence that was broken into earlier. Then her grandfather will check the CCTV footage in that area because it is very dangerous. Yun-woo was shocked because Ye-in's father suddenly gave him a piece of meat. It was unusual for her father to do something like that.
아버님, 저 무침도 좀.
Yun-woo entered the room slowly because he didn't want to wake Ye-in. And when Yun-woo opened the plane gate, Ye-in suddenly asked why Yun-woo was taking so long. Then suddenly Ye-in asked Yun-woo to take off her clothes because Ye-in sprained her finger. Yun-woo became shocked and nervous at that time. And when Yun-woo unbuttoned her shirt, Ye-in suddenly asked him if that was enough. She would open the rest herself. She asked why Yun-woo didn't take off his clothes. Yun-woo became restless at that time, and it turned out that Ye-in asked Yun-woo to take a shower. Ye-in was daydreaming in the room. She remembers the incident when Yun-woo saved her from a wild boar, and also when Yun-woo carried herself. Ye-in became even more nervous when she saw Yun-woo coming out from the bathroom shirtless. Even though Ye-in turned her face away, she stole a glance to see Yun-woo. They both looked very nervous. And Ye-in went into the bathroom. In the bathroom, Ye-in felt stunned. What happened to his body that made Ye-in hot? Yun-woo suddenly entered the bathroom. It turned out he wanted to wipe the floor because Ye-in usually doesn't like when the floor is wet. Ye-in said it was okay and asked Yun-woo to dry his hair. Don't know why Ye-in was acting strange at that time. Is Ye-in passionate? They both sleep in the same bed, but they seem to have trouble sleeping. Yun-woo thought it was because the bed was small. Even though in the past, they had slept in the same bed with a smaller bed. When Ye-in was in Yun-woo's hometown, and it was getting late, Yun-woo asked Ye-in to stay at his house. When Yun-woo invited Ye-in to sleep in his room, and he slept outside. But Yun-woo knocked on the window. He invites Ye-in to look at the moon. But then Ye-in asks Yun-woo to look at it from inside the room. Finally, they spent the night together. When Ye-in asked if they could cuddle if the bed was small, Yunwoo was confused and answered that the bed was still quite wide. And Ye-in asked again if you still want to hug. Yunwoo didn't have time to answer, and Ye-in said that she was just joking. Ye-in received an email from the medical team who treating her, that they could not treat Ye-in. Ye-in felt it was a shame that she almost made it with the 1 trillion club. There are many limited edition clothes that she hasn't worn yet. And when he saw Yunwoo, Ye-in felt that Yunwoo was going to waste.
네가 제일 아까워.
At the office, Ye-in looked at Yunwoo with love. She seems really admire her husband's handsomeness. She was confused herself and asked her secretary, "Is there a woman whose heart still flutters when she sees her husband after 3 years of marriage?" The secretary answered, "Was that person sick?" Ye-in explained that she looked at her husband. Why did she suddenly want to hug him? And when she saw her husband's broad shoulder, she wanted him to hug her. The secretary asked the person to see a doctor and also have CT scan because her brain had problems.
땡이 든 거야, 이거는.
Then Ye-in went to see her doctor and asked why she was different. Even though before she was always heartless, why is she empathic now? When she heard the sad story, she also felt it and cried, whereas before she never cared about other people's suffering. The doctor was confused to explain Ye-in that when they are sick, they become aware of things they were not aware of. Ye-in said that if doctors can save her, then a miracle will.
저를 살려냈는지.
Yunwoo's brother is experiencing financial problem because there are few people who want to practice boxing at his place. And if Yunwoo gets divorced, then he will be worse off. Then Yunwoo's sister plans to meet Ye-in and ask her to cancel the divorce. They will go to meet Ye-in without telling Yunwoo first. Because if Yunwoo found out, he would definitely forbid them from coming. So they were determined to come to the supermarket where Ye-in worked. They met in the receptionist to meet Ye-in. But they couldn't because they hadn't made an appointment in advance. Until Ye-in passed by and seemed to recognize them. It turned out that they are Ye-in's sister-in-law. Then they were invited to Ye-in's office to talk. They are confused about how to start talking about divorce. And instead she talked at length, but made Ye-in confused. Even though at that time Ye-in had a meeting scheduled. Ye-in actually thought they came because Ye-in wasn't there before their father's birthday. Until Ye-in's secretary came and asked her for a meeting. Ye-in went to the meeting and they said they would continue the conversation by sending a message. When Ye-in came to meet Mr. Herman, the owner of the Hersina shop, it turned out he didn't come and there was only Eun-sang there. Eun-sang reasoned that Mr. Herman had gone to see his daughter because his daughter had fallen. Yunwoo was told by his colleagues that his sister had come to see Ye-in. Yunwoo was surprised to hear that. Yunwoo's sister composed what to send to Ye-in, and after thinking enough, she finally sent the message to Ye-in. But after the message was sent, Yunwoo suddenly called her. His sister was shocked when she found out that Yunwoo didn't get a divorce. Then Yunwoo tries to call Ye-in. But Ye-in's cell phone was rejected and turned off by An-sang. Yunwoo is confused looking for Ye-in in her room. But Ye-in wasn't in her room. She wasn't home yet. An-sang said that Yunwoo seemed hesitant when saving Ye-in. He also added that Yunwoo doesn't love Ye-in enough. But Ye-in believes in her husband, that Yunwoo loved her because of his action so far, because Yunwoo didn't leave her at a time like this. Yunwoo looked anxious, waiting for Ye-in in front of her house. It turned out that An-sang also took Ye-in home. An-sang took her because Ye-in was quite drunk. Yunwoo, who was worried, checked his wife's condition. Yunwoo was angry with An-sang because Ye-in came home drunk. Finally, Ye-in wakes up and An-sang goes home. Ye-in was so drunk that she could hardly walk. Ye-in said that she wants to try new things from now on. Yunwoo listened and he also looked for Ye-in's cell phone. He was carrying Ye-in bags and there was no Ye-in's cell phone in the bed. Ye-in forgot if she left in the car. Yunwoo, who was nervous, immediately called the driver. But it turned out her cell phone was in her pocket. Yunwoo became increasingly anxious when Ye-in turned on her cell phone. He ran and held Ye-in's hand until her cell phone was thrown. Ye-in became confused and Yunwoo doesn't know why he did that. He was relieved that Ye-in had found her cell phone. Then Ye-in says why is she not confident? Ye-in wants to try new things. And suddenly she kissed Yunwoo.